Oh, so nearby Lucas, what are we talking about today?
We're going to be talking about a man that can control electricity.
Yeah, because he got bitten by an eel in a bad movie. I'm so tired of people trying to pretend those movies were good. It's like, no, Andrew Garfield's a good actor, and so is Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, good cast in bad movies.
Yeah. And that's like about as fair as you can be to them. Anyway. So nearby Lucas, what do you actually know about the subject of today's Wiki Weekends? The link to the article we're reading from, as usual, is below, and that's on Maxwell Dillon of 616.
So I do know bits and pieces about Electro, because he was in the PS1 second video game, Enter Electro.
Yeah, which top billing.
Yeah, he
top
was.
After Spider-Man.
And then, he was wearing his fantastic green and yellow outfit that they have now got rid of.
Yep, which I hate. It's one of my most hated tropes in all these comic book movies, which started with the X-Men movies of them deliberately shying away from the colourful, interesting costumes they wore in the original comics. And they even have that really bad, awkward, stilted line where Wolverine gets the costume and he opens it and goes, "Is this what you expect me to wear? Well, what do you want? Yellow spandex?" Yes.
Yes, please.
And then what do they wear, 10 years later in the First Class series? Oh, they all wear the yellow spandex.
But believe that Electro outfit has been changed in the comics and not just for those movies.
Yeah, but there's something about just the theatrical elements of that costume, like the giant, like the man is made of electricity and he still thinks, for the branding, he's got to wear the giant lightning bolt on his head.
If fucking Spider-Man Far From Home can make a fishbowl head man look good,
yeah,
you can make any comic book, stupid cartoon, costume look fine.
Yes. It's all about, do you have the confidence in your design?
Mm-hmm.
And then you only have to look at the Amazing Spider-Man movies to know, no, they didn't.
I mean, they didn't even give the lizard a snout. They gave him a human mouth that looked really awkward.
Yeah, and I got so pissed off that the lizard is bad, because I've talked before about how the lizard is one of my favourite Spider-Man villains, because he's just a lizard in a lab coat, and it's so funny. Every time you see him, it's like, what do you call this? The lizard. Like, JJ took a day off that day. Who's this one? The lizard. Really? Not Crocodile Man? Fuck lizard. Done.
Not Killer Croco, wait. Oh, no.
That's such an apt way of summing up the difference between DC and Marvel, isn't it? Where Marvel's willing to have a bit of fun with it, of like the lizard, because it's kind of silly, kind of like tongue-in-cheek, and then what's DC's? It's so desperate to be taken seriously. Killer Croc!
Yeah. It's one of those, though, of like, if we're going to compare all names, I don't think we can take the strength of the lizard.
The lizard's awesome. Do you know why? Because he's a lizard. Anyway, and unfortunately, Lucas, it's a rarity for a Wiki Weekends about a Marvel character. There are no band names.
None at all.
Nope. Maxwell Dillon, aka Electro, has one alias, Sparky.
Not like Max Power or anything like that, no.
Which you think is like, something he'd call himself, like at least on Tinder, but no. He has one alternate nickname, Sparky, presumably said to him by Spider-Man. Imagine though, like you are like a police officer in New York, and Electro turns up. And it's like, am I trained to is a man made of electricity?
Well, it's that first scene that they completely blow it all. Like, where do you put Electro? Well, Times Square, obviously.
Yeah, that should
where
have been
he's just the most powerful man in existence.
You know that thing that should have been the climax of the entire movie? Mm-hmm. So where's the end of the movie going to take place? In a boring, nondescript power substation where they play a dubstep remix of the Itsy Bitsy Spider.
I was going to say, Karl, then they couldn't do the Itsy Bitsy Spider if it was in Times Square. That is one of the most infuriating things in all of media for me.
Because it's like, that should have been the climax of the entire movie.
Oh no, I was going to say the Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Oh, okay.
I hate it so much. I've rewatched that movie again and again. I don't know why. But every time the Itsy Bitsy Spider comes, I want to punch the screen.
Do you know why that's in as well? Do you remember that Sony leak a while ago? Where a bunch of emails from executives got leaked.
Was it Avi Arad's fault?
It wasn't his fault, but one of the executives was asking the people making Spider-Man, dubstep's popular, put dubstep in it.
Oh.
And it was literally just someone went, dubstep's popular, figure out a way to put that in the movie, and they had to put it in.
And they figured Itsy Bitsy Spider would be the best way to do it.
So powers and abilities, which is the stuff we all want to get to. So electrostatic energy generation. Electro possessed the ability to bodily generate electrostatic energy, which he could release or harness for a number of effects. He was powered by microfine rhythmic muscle contractions that normally regulate body temperature. So do you know that thing about your body naturally produces a small amount of bioelectricity? Mm-hmm. His body is just like that, but times 1 million.
Oh, okay.
Which is something I do appreciate in comics, where they try to explain stuff more than not at all.
At least for the successful villains and heroes, like
Yeah.
a lot of the time, the ones that seem to become popular are ones that you can give some kind of exaggerated rationale to their power set.
Yeah. Like, how many of these wiki weekends have we done where, like, we'll talk about this fantastical power a person has, and it's like, it's unknown how, like, this power works, because the comic writer doesn't want to explain it and then get a letter of complaint from someone who knows the actual science and how that wouldn't work. So his body could generate electricity at a rate of about 10,000 volts per minute, up to a maximum storage capacity of 10 million volts. At that point, his body automatically stopped producing electricity. As he expended his electrostatic energy, his body automatically began to recharge the stores. He could mentally control the amount of energy he discharges, anywhere from a single volt to his full 10 million volts in one go.
Just blow it all,
Just
Karl.
the final explosion. Just do what Sony did in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie, where they blew it all in the trailer. At 10 to 30 feet, his maximum charge was more than enough to kill a man. That doesn't actually sound that far, does it? 30 feet, considering, like, lightning bolts can hit you from the sky.
That, combined with the fact he can only store 10 million volts, which is a lot, but it's not a lot for, I guess, like, a super villain. If he can just blow it all in one go, I'm like, this man doesn't seem as dangerous as I would have imagined him at this point.
It does say here that he could use his body as a transformer, touching an outside power source as a generator and channeling it through his own body for use. The amount of energy he could transfer or transform above his body's maximum storage is unknown.
Okay.
Which is why you have all those shots like, do not let Electro go near anything that remotely approaching a power source.
But Spider-Man's got to be within 30 feet of the transformer to die from it.
So all you got to do is just get a really big rock and just throw it at him. Electro Detection, which I think is, like, pretty self-explanatory. He knows where electricity is.
Yeah, and I think they actually do a good job of visualizing that in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, of showing you what he sees when he first spawns in as, like, Electro.
Yeah.
And he sees all the cars and all the power lines going through the streets and stuff.
And it's very similar to, like, the arterial structure of our own bodies. Like, there's a heart and veins and everything. And then he sees, like, life.
Yeah.
And he realizes, like, it's power, pure untapped power. Electrical conversion into enhanced physical attribution. The electricity coursing through his altered body augmented his strength, speed, and recuperative powers. When fully charged, he was able to lift about 500 pounds. Oh. So less than Wolverine and Captain America. Less than the Punisher.
But he can physically lift 500 pounds, but he can use, like, magnetism through his electricity to lift magnetic
Maybe it
objects,
says here that he can ionize metal, potentially allowing him to have power similar to Magneto, though he's seldom used this ability. And then localize electromagnetic storms. He once defeated the Invisible Woman by creating an electromagnetic storm, allowing him to carbonize the air around her and imprison her in a sheet of rock-hard electrocarbon atoms, effectively turning her into a statue.
Oh, fucking hell.
Why don't you do it on Spider-Man? And it says here that after an experimental procedure temporarily heightened his powers, he could store a seemingly limitless amount of electricity and could fly by generating a massive field of electricity. So he just became like a cloud.
Yeah.
He just became living cloud. He somehow seems to have lost these new abilities after he threw himself into the Hudson River and exploded.
Oh, no.
Don't get him wet. He's like a mogwai. Don't let him get wet and don't let him eat after midnight. Immune to electricity. He's not immune to it. Like, electricity heals him. That's better than immunity.
Yeah, he's got Volt Absorb.
Yeah, he's got faults. That's better than being immune. He's not got, like, what's the Pokemon ability that'll make you immune?
Lightning Rod.
Lightning Rod. He's not got Lightning Rod. He's got Volt Absorb, which is way better competitively. Trivia! Up until Superior Spider-Man 1, Electro's been a member of every incarnation of the Sinister Six, including the Sinister Seven, the Sinister 12, and the Superior Six. Man, they might be good at being villains, but they suck at naming their villainous teams.
But how do you feel when you were part of the Sinister 12, but then 6 of them split off to be the Superior 6?
That's a good one. Do you know what that is? That's an in-universe beef that kicks off. It says here, shortly after gaining his powers, Magneto asked Electro to join the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Again, branding on that is terrible.
Yeah.
Magneto, why just call it the Brotherhood of Mutants? You don't have to put evil in there. When you've got evil in there, it kind of gives people the wrong idea of what you're all
it puts
about.
you off a little bit to join in, doesn't it?
And then it says here, since the lightning that had struck him merely affected a latent gene within his body, although it's unclear whether it was necessarily a mutant gene.
I think that's a lot of Marvel characters, especially Spider-Man characters, isn't it?
Spider-Man is continuously being attacked by Sentinels, and he's like, please stop, I'm not a mutant.
It's like, but your genes say that you've been, like, altered and you're a mutant. It's like, no, they got altered by a spider.
Yeah.
I'm not naturally like this.
But you have mutated in some way.
Yeah.
And it's like the robot can't make that distinction, which is a great argument against AI when it keeps trying to kill Spider-Man.
But, I mean, if you want to live in a world without Wolverine and without Professor X, do you really want Spider-Man around?
That's fair.
You probably want him dead either way, don't you?
Well, JJ does. Like, there's that great comic book where J. Jonah Jameson gets so mad, at She-Hulk, because She-Hulk's fucking his son. He goes to a guy who builds some robot spiders that go and attack She-Hulk. And She-Hulk knows it's him because J. Jonah Jameson decides, for some inexplicable reason, to have the robots have a picture of his face on them. And they attack a lawyer. And she gets really mad and she goes and fucking sues him.
Like a superhero lawyer, that's the person you don't want to piss off.
Yeah, it's just, well, you can attack her if you want, but don't put your face on the robots that are attacking her.
Karl is called Brandon, okay?
And everyone in the universe is apparently either really bad or really good at it.